Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a very good election update here for Donald Trump. We've got a final poll from a very popular pollster that looks amazing. And we've also got some state polls, specifically New Hampshire, that was released last night. Supposedly, we're getting Virginia today, potentially showing a very close race. But take a look at this New Hampshire from Emerson. You do have Kamala Harris up by around 3.5 points. The governor, the Republican, up by 2.7, with leans up by about 4. I've said before, New Hampshire, it's a state that, most of the people there are independent. So it's a state that, who knows, it might go to Trump. It's possible when you're down by 3.5 points. This is a solid pollster, Emerson. Only 4 electoral votes is not the biggest thing in the world, but this is the last thing the Harris campaign wanted, where you're talking about now Trump potentially stretching his electoral map to potentially include Virginia, New Hampshire, maybe Minnesota gets put on that list. Who knows, man? I mean, they want, obviously, the swing states to get closer because right now they're down and everything, but the opposite is happening. You can see, this is what I tweeted out. Virginia is about to be a full-blown swing state. That's from the rumors that there's going to be a poll coming out in Virginia. And also, you've got Trump sending people to Virginia. I would like Trump to do a rally in Virginia with Tulsi and Glenn Youngkin. Laura Trump is joining Glenn Youngkin in a rally in Virginia. Quote, Virginia early vote is looking tremendous enough for the GOP that perhaps Laura is not the only Trump that you will see in Virginia. So that is big news. Donald Trump possibly actually going to Virginia. We've got the big JRE interview happening today. We'll see if that gets released. If it does, that'll be a live stream. I'll be live reacting to the entire thing. I'm hoping it's over an hour and a half. This is a good map. This is something to where, and I like when they do the predictions with the margins. I agree with this, honestly. This is like right where mine is. You got Trump +7 in Texas. Yes, he's going to win Florida by more than Texas. That's guaranteed. And I think it's going to be 10 or 11 in Florida. These margins are very solid. I think Michigan might be a little bit higher. I think Pennsylvania might be around 2 to 2.5. But yeah, also I think maybe Virginia is about 3.5. But yeah, this is pretty much what we expect at this point in terms of the map. But let's get to the big poll that I was talking about. It is the New York Times final national poll. It has Donald Trump tied in terms of overall popular vote, just the general election. The last poll that they did, it was Harris +3. This is all of the big reputable mainstream pollsters. They're all doing the same thing. They all had Harris +4, Harris +3. Now it's coming down to where it's a tie. That's why you're seeing Real Clear Politics move their overall average in terms of the popular vote. Now it's even. And now the betting markets are having to adjust, and Trump, he might be the favorite on the betting markets by the end of the weekend with the Rogan episode, with the Madison Square Garden rally. Who knows who he's going to bring for that? Maybe Elon Musk comes along in some dark MAGA gear, but you do have Trump sitting +1 when you expand to the full field with Jill Stein getting 2%. Obviously, you can see the crosstabs there. And honestly, these crosstabs, they have Harris winning independents by 5, but it doesn't matter. Because if Trump ties in terms of just the popular vote, he wins the election. So that's even with Harris winning independents by 5 to where Trump is basically winning this election. And you can see all the crosstabs right here. Trump sitting +11 with white people. These crosstabs, they look decent to me. They check out. And this is New York Times, their final last poll. And if you compare them to the past 2 election cycles, you've got Hillary +4, and Hillary ended up winning by 2.1 or 2.2. And then Biden +9, and obviously now it is a total difference in terms of where we're at here in 2024. So with the New York Times recent drop and really a lot of other things going on, you've even got Arizona early vote. You can see the difference. Republicans were up 3 in 2016. Democrats won it by 10 in 2020. Now Republicans are back up by 7 in Arizona. You win the early vote by 7 in Arizona. There's an extremely, extremely, extremely good chance you're going to win that state. Obviously, we can't say for sure because we knew there were going to be more Republicans doing the early voting this year than 2020 or even 2016, because this year the Trump campaign has really embraced the early voting way more than previous years, especially way more than 2020. But when you've got all of these reputable mainstream national polls coming out and saying it's basically a tie in terms of the general popular vote, that's a sign that this election is, it's trending heavily in Donald Trump's direction. Right now, the betting markets that I've seen, around 65-35. It may trend up to 70-30 based off of the media events that Trump's going to be doing over the next few days. And also possibly making stops in Virginia. Virginia is going to be another state that probably gets talked about and probably gets moved depending on the polls that come out of there, because there's been supposedly some good news that we've been hearing. You've also got New Hampshire. You've also got Minnesota. Those are the next states up on the list. But right now, you'll settle if you are Donald Trump to sweep all the swing states. That's 312 electoral votes and win the popular vote. If Trump can win the popular vote, that would be huge. And that's also going to calm liberals down from the whole narrative that, oh, Republicans can't win the popular vote. We need to get rid of the Electoral College. Well, if you got rid of the Electoral College, if Donald Trump wins the popular vote, it really doesn't matter. And so now we're seeing that where it's getting really condensed, the popular vote that is, and Trump's now got like a 40% chance to win it. 2 weeks ago, it was at 25. So it's gone up significantly. And this is really, I think it's lagging. And remember, I said the betting was lagging versus the polls, and now the betting's caught up, and that's why it's around 65. But I think the betting's lagging in terms of the popular vote. It should really be 50. Really, Trump should be the leader in terms of the popular vote, maybe a slight leader. I understand because of history in terms of recent U.S. elections, the Democrats always winning the popular vote. There's this bias to where they're going to win it again. It's understandable. But if you look at the polls and you compare them to what was happening in 2020 or 2016, Trump should be a favorite to win the popular vote right now based off of all the national polls. You don't even have to include the Republican pollsters where we're at today versus where we were in 2020 or 2016. That's New York Times saying it with their final poll. They've come out and they've said that there. You've also got, this is the New York Post endorsing Donald Trump for president. Not too surprising, but that also happened. And you also did have J.D. Vance, extremely impressive in a town hall with Chris Cuomo. You know, J.D. Vance has the MAGA viewpoint, but he's able to kind of smooth it in and relate it to the middle class in a way that I don't think we've seen before. And I think J.D. Vance is on track to be obviously the nominee in 2028. If Trump wins in 2024, he would be the favorite. But this town hall, I mean, you compare J.D. Vance's town hall to Kamala's. I mean, my goodness, it's night and day. It really is. And obviously, J.D. Vance versus Walz. Should something happen to the president, I don't understand how you can vote for. I mean, listen, I know Democrats are going to vote for Harris. That's fine. But if you're an independent and you look at the difference between J.D. Vance and Walz, I mean, it is such a significant gap. And by the way, if anyone was wondering, we do have the overall average now tied with the updated New York Times poll. Their last one had Harris up. This one with a tie brings everything together. And now, for the first time since, what is this, early August, we've seen Donald Trump be able to tie Kamala Harris. This is just the popular vote. Obviously, Trump can lose the popular vote and win the election by a few points. But I mean, this is very, very, very good news. We did not see this in 2020. We didn't see it in 2016. It is completely abnormal for Trump this late in the cycle to be tied, but he has certainly experienced a surge. You do have Harvard Harris. We're waiting on their final poll. Imagine they come out with a tie. If that happens, then Trump's going to go up in terms of the overall aggregate. Probably Atlas Intel will have one final poll. I'm guessing it's going to be a Trump +2 to +3. Fox News, we'll see what they do. But really, right now you've got the Morning Compost, Harris +4 kind of propping her up. All the recent stuff, though, seemingly is pro-Trump. And if it's not pro-Trump, it's Trump down by 1, down by 2. You can understand that. You can deal with it, especially this late in the cycle. That's fine. Whether or not you think there's going to be a polling error one way or another, we can debate that. But based off of 2020 and 2016, it would be very abnormal if a polling error, if they overestimated Trump. Now, you could say maybe they'll overcorrect like they did in 2022. Well, 2022 was actually a very good year for pollsters. They were barely off in terms of the generic ballot voting. They were like 0.5 off overall. That's a false narrative. Yeah, they got some of the races wrong. But again, you're talking about midterms versus general elections where Trump draws so many more voters. It's like apples to oranges. So right now, if we end, whether it's Harris wins the popular vote by 0.5, Trump wins it by 0.5, Trump's winning the Electoral College based on electoral math anyways. It's irrelevant, although we would like to have the popular vote, obviously. And maybe with another poll, we're going to get Trump finally taking the lead in this overall Real Clear Politics average. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.